welcome to Westchester Talk Radio, and we are live today at the Knollwood Country Club here in Elmsford, New York, for the third annual Honickman Company's Golf Invitational for the benefit of Volunteers of America in Greater New York. We're produced this afternoon by Shaw Creative and made possible by Hightower Westchester and Robeson. And I'm going to enjoy my next guest. Not the first time we've been together, but I always have new questions for him. One of my favorite pitchers of all time, mostly known for the Mets, but we would be remiss if we didn't remind you that he pitched a no-hitter for the New York Yankees. Please welcome, Dwight's his official name, but everybody calls him Doc. Hi, Doc Gooden. How are you?
I'm doing great. Good to be on your show again. Hope all is well.
All is well. Now, you mentioned when we were getting ready that you not only have grandkids, but great-grandkids. That's a shaker.
That is a shaker, you know. And the thing that's amazing, having grandkids and then great-grandkids. You know, my 18-year-old grandson has kids. So imagine telling your your grandson, Happy Father's Day.
I have a possibility of that. I have a 20-year-old grandson, and I don't know what I'll do if he has children before I go into the great ballpark in the sky. Speaking of ballparks, I know I asked you this before, but we have new audiences whenever we come on. Back in the day when you were with the Mets, and people would hang those K signs up, you actually took a look at them, didn't you?
Yes, I did. You know, you're young, you get excited about it. And the thing about it, having Gary Carter as my catcher, Gary wanted me to dominate every game. He did not care what the score was. I had to dominate. And for some reason, I got caught up in it. And, you know, when you're passing the ball around the infield as a strikeout, the third baseman is always the last one that touched the ball before he gives it to you. Mm-hmm. The K corner was above the third base in the left field corner. So I'll take a look up there to see how many I have. For some reason, I always wanted at least 10 Ks.
You did want 10 Ks.
I wanted at least 10 Ks every game. That was my thing. So I always shot for 10.
Well, we're going to go back to that because, like I said, I was a high school pitcher of little note, but I love pitching. And you had a fastball that moved terrifically and a biting curve. When you really wanted to get a guy done, when you really had to get a strikeout, what was your go-to pitch?
Curveball. Curveball is my bread and butter.
It really was? Even as hard as you throw?
It was because I only had two pitches. That was fastball, curveball. But my curveball, I can change speeds with it. So if I had a guy 1-2, 2-2, I would throw the high fastball. If he didn't chase it, I was going to throw the curveball to start at the same plane and make it come in, recognizing it as a fastball, as a curveball, and I'll buck him every time. So
wow. Now, I remember all those times I used to watch almost every time you pitched, and I still am a little bit amazed at how your fastball moved. And I know we're on radio, but I have to show it with my hand. We're going and almost did like a lasso. How early in your life did that start, where it just sailed like that?
It started when I was young. My dad taught me mechanics. He would take me to the field with no ball, no glove, no bat, and just teach me mechanics, which at that time wasn't fun because when you're a kid, you go to the ballpark, you know, you want to hit balls, you want to play catch, you want to throw the balls. But he taught me all my mechanics, all the basic stuff. And then about 3 months later, he gave me the ball and taught me stuff. So I knew certain pitches, if I throw it, if it went where I wanted, I knew the adjustments to make. And then basically to make the ball move like that was where I hold the grips on the ball and the location of it.
That's interesting. Now, could you always throw hard? I mean, how old were you when you realized that you could throw hard?
I think when I was 12, that's when I really...
Real 12?
I was 12, I really took off and grew. And I remember having one game where I struck out the 16 of the 18 batters. And that's when I knew I was special. But then the following year, when I turned 13, I went to the bigger field. And things kind of evened out again until my junior high school. Then I took off again.
Wow, that's fascinating. Now, when you moved up to the Mets and you had that first really successful season, were you surprised, number one? And then following that, when would you say you became more a pitcher than a thrower? When you knew to mix your curveballs and with your fastball, change speeds, location?
I think my first couple years in the majors, you know, I was a power pitcher, I had a good fastball. And at that time, I fell behind in the count. I was like, here it is, fastball, hit it if you can. I think when I went to the Yankees, I didn't have the same velocity. I was a little older. I had to learn how to pitch, depending on locations more, changing speeds, reading bat speed, different things like that. So I'll say probably in 96 I had to make the adjustment.
Now, when you were with the Yankees, did you just said that you threw as hard with the Yankees as you did with the Mets? And if so, did you have the same movement?
I had the same movement, but I didn't throw as hard with the Yankees. I had to learn how to pitch what we call behind the count and make the adjustment, pitching backwards. And what I mean by that is like normally like in 80-45, if I fell behind on a hitter, here's the fastball, hit it if you can. With the Yankees and fastball counts, or I would throw the curveball. So a lot of times fastball was for show, but I was trying to get you out with my breaking ball.
Okay, yeah. So they had if they were worried about the fastball, the curveball. There was a biting curve. I remember you had a very sharp curveball in your heyday. At what point, I watch pitchers now as I did then. I just love it. In fact, every book by a pitcher, including yours, I own. It's just one of those things for me. When did you realize, and when does the pitcher see his speed drop? Is it the beginning of a new season, or can you lose speed actually mid-season?
You can lose it mid-season. Sometimes your arm gets tired, and I have games where middle of the season you just get tired, you go through a dead-on period, they call it, where the velocity drops some, and then it picks back up. So that happened a lot, but not as often as you get older or you have a surgery. Like in 92, I had rotator cuff and labrum surgery. After that, I was never the same. So making an adjustment from a power pitcher to a complete pitcher was kind of tough because you're used to getting two strikes and just trying to blow the guy away, but you had to make the adjustment and rely more on location and changing speeds.
Well, that was what my next question. You kind of teed it up for me. When you got to the Yankees and later in your career, when you had to pitch, really pitch, once you get over the fact that you can't blow guys away anymore, is that in a way more fun?
Honestly, I think blowing guys away was more fun.
Okay, that's an honest answer, man.
But the big power hitters like a Mike Smith or Jack Clark, just to blow a fastball by those guys, it was more for the ego. It was a good. When you had to learn how to pitch, it was fun. It was more successful. And the thing I think helped me was my dad taught me how to pitch. So when I had to make the adjustment, it was easier making an adjustment for me. But it was definitely more fun blowing a power hitter away than trying to finesse him.
Well, I could only imagine what that must be like. As your career, do you know when it's done? Do you know when you're done? When you're coming up towards the end of it, do you realize that I just can't get the ball by people anymore, and I don't have enough to really get guys out?
Oh, when guys are laying off your certain pitches, and certain guys you normally get out with ease, the bottom of the order, and these guys are hitting you pretty hard, and you got nothing to get them out with, and you can't, fool them anymore, they say, or get them in location, then it's time. And it's tough to make adjustment, and from a pitch when you had a lot of success, it's hard for you to accept that from an ego standpoint.
I bet.
So you make the adjustments you can, and then you know when you've had enough.
We're talking with former Met and, of course, Yankee Dwight Doc Gooden here on Westchester Talk Radio. Were there any, now I know you once told me about your cousin, and we'll get to that, because he had a lot of trouble with you, and I know you remind him every Thanksgiving, but we'll let you talk a little more about that. But was there a hitter that, Lord have mercy, you just couldn't get him out? It was difficult to get out for you.
Oh, yes. Chili Davis, man, he was tough. I remember when Chili was with the San Francisco Giants, I was with the Mets. He was one of those guys, he made me get the ball down. He made me throw strikes. And the tough pitches, he would fight him off until I made the mistake or walked him. And even in 98, 99, when he went to the Yankees and I was in Cleveland, I could not get this guy out. And the thing that I had fun with Chili about, when he was a hitting coach with the Mets, I was down in spring training. I said, Chili, let's go on a bike field and let's go at it one more time.
Did you do that?
I said, just between me and you, let's go on it one more time. He wouldn't do it. He said, I got the upper hand now, and it's going to stay there. But he's a great man and definitely a tough out. I remember certain times I used to hit Chili. I can't admit it now. I used to hit him intentionally, not to hurt him, but just try to intimidate him. But it never worked with Chili. He had my number.
Dude, we see pitchers back off, back a guy up. And I know that helps because you get the inside, you get the outside of the plate to work a little more on. But are any major leaguers ever really intimidated? A major league hitter?
It's funny that you said. I'll tell you a quick story. I don't know if I told you this one. So when I was in the minor leagues in A-ball, I wasn't pitching inside because I was afraid that in high school I hit a guy in the head and it got hurt pretty bad. So I started off 0-3 in A-ball, and they was going to send me down to low A. And we had this pitching coach, John Conlon, say, no, don't send him down. We'll just work with him. So we didn't work with anything. He just talked to me about pitching inside. He goes, if a guy hits the ball harder for you, you knock him down. If a guy's a home run for you, next guy, you hit him in the leg. That's okay. And he said, always, if you throw inside on a guy, when you get the ball back, you stare at him. If he looks down, you got his number. He's intimidated. So I ended up going 19-4 the rest of that year. So I tried, and they shoved me in the big league, so I tried to take the same mentality. And so I'll knock a guy down and I'm staring at him. Andre Dawson comes with the bat.
Oh, my.
I throw one inside and I'm staring at him. He stares back at me. And he never looked down. I end up looking down.
I could see why you would look, Andre Dawson's not going to be bothered by that. That has to be fun. Those real, when you've got a great hitter and when you were at your great prime, that has to be a lot of fun.
Oh, it was a lot of fun. Like the most fun I had facing was Jack Clark because he was a power hitter and wins with the Cardinals, 85, 86. And the thing that was amazing was I remember in '84 he was with the San Francisco Giants, but he was hurt. And Rusty Staub told me, he goes, "You think you have a great fastball? I wish you could face a guy like Jack Clark." And the next year, 1985, Jack Clark's with the Cardinals. And he's batting fourth, and it's opening day. Carter's my catcher. And, opening day, you're just pumped up. And I remember what Rusty had told me the previous year. So I got the first three guys out, the first and the second, and Jack Clark's leading off. I get him 0-2. Instead of wasting a pitch or throwing a pitch in the dirt, I remember what Rusty told me, so I tried to blow one by him and he hit me off the scoreboard. When I came in there, Rusty goes, "That's the Jack Clark I was talking about." So every time I face Clark,
That's a great story.
so every time I face Clark, either he hits a home run or I strike him out.
Hey, you brought up Gary Carter a few times. Was he the best catcher for you?
No doubt. Gary brought the best out of me, and he played a big part of my '85 season. It didn't matter if I was facing a 7, 8, 9 hitter. He made me face those guys the same way as a 3, 4, 5 hitter. And once we scored a couple runs early, he wanted me to totally dominate. He wanted the 10 strikeouts, the shutout, complete game, and he demanded the best out of me every single day.
Now, let's talk a little bit about the gamesmanship between yourself and your nephew.
Yes. Oh, facing Gary was great. We grew up in the same house. I'm 4 years older. Sometimes we shared the same bed, and we should play in the backyard all the time. And
Gary Sheffield, by the way, for our audience.
yes, Gary Sheffield. Yes, so he's my sister's son, and I'm 4 years old. We grew up in the same house. The greatest story I had with Gary was my dad trained both of us, and you know how Gary always moved his bat real fast. Like, unfortunately, there's no TV, but he always moved his bat real fast. So it was for timing. When he's going slow, he's thinking off speed. When he's going fast, he'd get off a fastball.
So we had to tell.
Yeah, so I knew what he did because we trained together. So when he came from Milwaukee to San Diego in '92, he's having a great year. And so I always tell a catcher, whether it's Todd Hutley or Charlie O'Brien, don't put down a sign until I nod my head. I want to see what he's doing with his bat. So once I saw what Gary was doing with his bat, I knew what he was looking for. Then I'd go ahead and nod my head and put down the sign, and I'd shake him off and go with it. Never had any problem with Gary, but he killed all the pitchers. He wore them out. And I couldn't tell him because he's still family. Once we retired at Thanksgiving, and one day we were talking, and Gary goes, "Doc, what did you think when you faced me?" I said, with the bat wiggle thing, I said, I knew what you was doing because we trained together. I said, every time you're going fast, you're looking fast. When you're going slow, you're looking change up. He goes, "Oh, you're right, you knew that." I said, "Yeah, I had your number." And then in 2000, he hit a horn off of me in spring training. He goes, "I finally got you." I said, "Yeah, but that'll never be on your bubblegum card. Spring training doesn't count."
Hey, let's go to your no-hitter when you were with the Yankees. I'd always wished you did it with the Mets, but I watched that game.
Actually, in '84, not to cut you off, '84, I had a no-hitter. I don't know if you remember the play. Keith Moore hit a slow roller to right.
Yeah.
And he couldn't get the ball out of his glove, and it gave him a hit. Only base run all game.
I know. I'm aware of it. Now, what you didn't have, at least in my view, you can contest this. When you pitched the no-hitter for the Yankees, you pitched a very smart game, but you didn't have the stuff you had back in '85.
Not at all. I've had a lot better stuff in different games. That particular game, I just happened to make pitches when I had to get guys out. But and it was just meant to be because I turned out to be the last game my dad saw me pitch.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. He had been suffering. He had been on dialysis for 15 years. His kidney was failing. He was having open heart surgery the next day. So the day of that pitch, I was supposed to fly home to be with him. But then that morning I woke up, I said, you know what? He would probably want me to pitch. So I called Joe Torre, who's the manager. I said, "I'm coming to the pitch." He goes, "No, go home. Take as much time you need to be with your father." I said, "No, I'll see you tonight." Then I had to call my mom. It didn't go as easy. She said, "No, your dad's expecting you. Everybody's going to be here. We need your support. You have to come home." So I ended up hanging the phone up on my mom. Going to the ballpark, the first 3 innings, I'm standing in the tunnel between the dugout and the row. I'm in the clubhouse. Wondering if I made the right decision or not. Sometimes tearing up. Is my dad going to be okay? He's not going to be okay. Not until the 6th inning, I realized I had a no-hitter. I was looking at the scoreboard to see who Seattle had coming up, and you see no runs, no hits, no errors. Mm-hmm. So your heart started beating a little faster.
I bet.
I was able to put my dad's situation aside and concentrate on the game. And got through the game, pitched a no-hitter. The next day, went home, took a ball from the game to give to him at the hospital. The doctors told me he had watched the game. He was on life support at the time. He never made it home.
I'm sorry.
Passed away, but the last game he saw me pitch was that no-hitter. So.
Well, I got a human question for you. Now, I've played some pretty high-level amateur sports, but I'm obviously not a pro. And, it's nothing. Maybe you're in overtime. I played a lot of hockey. It's a lot of baseball, too, but mostly hockey. And you could feel the shakes. Now, when you're a major leaguer, do you get that? Like when you're in the 9th inning of a no-hitter, are you nervous or are you more focused? Do you get over that?
I came close a couple of times in the National League. I remember I got to the 8th inning one time and I hit a home run. I forgot how to pitch. I was so excited about the home run. And then against Seattle, I was so close and I was exhausted. I should have been out and given the 7th inning. I had nothing left. But you get that close, you got to go for it. And we got a 9th inning, I'm like, man, you got to just go for it. I got 2 outs, and I'm facing Sorrento. And so you're trying to go as hard as you can. And honestly, the worst pitch I threw all game was the last pitch I threw to him was a hanging curveball sitting on the tee, and he popped it up. It's one of them when you throw it, you're like, uh-oh, and he popped it up. You think the ball's never coming down. Never.
I bet.
And he caught it, so I was like, wow, I couldn't believe it. And then my mom goes, I never seen you eye like that before. I said, I never thrown a no-hitter before.
I bet. Now, a question I've always wanted to ask you, and the last 2 times I did not, and it's about when obviously you start out in A and you get a crowd of 1,500, then 2,000. In AAA, you might see 7,000. If even I don't even know if you played AAA, then if you went right to the majors, yeah. But what's it like the first time you pitch in a ballpark and 50,000 people? You're 19 years old, and that's when you came up, as I recall. What's that like?
Man, that's a great question because you take the mound and you see all the people there. And it's something like you hear all the noise, but some kind of way it's like television. You block it out in a sense, but you hear it. You know they're there. And I think pitching at home was a good start for me with a big crowd. Because even though I started in Houston when the big, but my first big crowd was at home. You know they're cheering for you. And I just say, you know what? This is a dream that I always wanted. Whatever happens. I can at least say I lived my dream.
You did it, yeah.
I play this game with myself.
Other than Yankee Stadium you played in, we know what that's like. We've all been there here, we New Yorkers. We've been to Shea and now Citi Field. What's the loudest ballpark since you've been in both leagues?
Any park?
Yeah.
I think the loudest I ever heard was probably Shea Stadium.
Really?
I think Shea Stadium in '86 was playing the Chicago Cubs, and it was the game we clinched. And I remember Chico walked with the batter, and I was trying to strike him out so bad and hit the ground ball. But that 9th inning was so loud. I mean, you couldn't even hear yourself breathe. That was tough.
And now the championship year in '86, you had that incredible series against Houston. I'll never forget it, even just getting to the World Series. Playing in games like that, what is that like?
It's fun. I mean, it's fun, but it's nerve-wracking. But the thing is, if you're pitching, you're into it. But when you're not pitching, it's more nervous because you got nothing
True.
With the outcome. It's tough, but that was a great series. It was fun. And we just had a team, guys, we worked so hard and came so far. We just felt like we weren't going to lose. We weren't supposed to lose. And even the game against Boston in Game 6, you just feel like, well, a little bit. Even though it was 2 outs in that Game 6, I thought it was over, to be honest. You're taught to never give up till it's over. But I thought it was over. But in the Houston series, I always felt we was going to win because we knew we still had Game 7, even though Mike Scott was waiting on Game 7.
Yeah, Mike Scott had that split-fingered thing, whatever he was throwing. That I was wondering, do you think he was putting anything on that baseball?
You know, we found out he wasn't. It was the catcher, Alan Ashby.
Oh, Ashby, because that ball dropped like a rock.
He used his shin guard, and I guess he sharpened one of the screws on there, and he was using the shin guard. That's why when they checked Scott, they never caught Scott. Kind of find out it was Ashby doing the shin guard. But he was nasty that year, man. I mean,
He really was.
cheating or not cheating, he was definitely scuffing, though, because Game 1, I pitched against Scott, and a lot of those balls were scuffed in the same area. Unfortunately, I tried to throw him. I couldn't get him to do anything.
And now, even though you guys won that series, I always felt bad for Buckner. And does the average major leaguer say, boy, I'm glad that didn't happen to me?
Everything's timing. I mean, he had a great career.
Great ball player.
Great ball player. He had a great career. Great guy. And unfortunately, that situation happened. It's all about timing. And the only thing you remember about is that play. That's sad, but I know he's passed away now, but he didn't get credit for this season. I mean, the career he had, over 2,000 hits.
Well, one last question. You gave your father credit. He also taught your cousin. Was your dad a pro ball player, or was he just a smart baseball player?
He was just a smart baseball guy, loved the game, studied the game. And back then, you only had the game in a week with Joe Gagliola. And we lived in Tampa, so we got all the Atlanta Braves games on the radios. So a lot of times we would listen to the game on the radio and watch the game on TV, and he'll be reading his papers. So, but he coached Little League, he coached semi-pro, he coached girls softball. I mean, anything with baseball or ball, he had something to do with it. He just loved the game.
Well, God bless him. And that way you were lucky to have that.
Yes, I mean, very lucky because I followed him everywhere he went.
A couple of memories before we send you on your way and back to this event, and it's really so very nice of you to give us all this time. The people you met in baseball who's you will keep in your memory forever, or who are very special or different or funny, what names, what people come to mind?
Obviously, the guys I play with, my teammates, became good friends. I mean, I always say guys you win the World Series with, they're not ex-teammates, they're your family for life. But then guys in the front office like Jay Horace, the PR guy with the Mets,
Everybody loves him.
he's always been special with me. He made my job easy with the media and everything else, and we always stayed in contact today. Lorraine Hamilton worked in the front office with the Mets. You know, a lot of guys behind the scenes, you know, guys like the clubhouse kids.
Clubhouse guys,
Don't get credit. They made our job easy, whether it's picking up your family from the airport, whether it's getting your laundry done, whatever it was, babysitting your kids, that type of stuff. They take the pressure off of us. Those guys, you know, get enough notice. The travel secretaries, you know, with your traveling, your family traveling, all those guys there meant the most to me, the behind-the-scene guys, that they get the credit.
Well, for what it's worth, you know, you probably hear this from a lot of people, but it was great following your career. I know you had some bumps along the way, but I'm glad you're doing well now. But it was great to watch you pitch, and it was great to see you have that real second career with the Yankees, too. You entertained a lot of people, my friend.
Oh, thank you very much. A lot of people that supported me, like you said, through my ups and downs, and even my path up coming to the majors. There's a lot of people that was there that I can give credit to, and you know, you just try to give back the best way you can. And my dad always taught me, it doesn't matter if you're homeless or you're president. We're all brothers and sisters at the end.
Well, thank you so very much, Doc Gooden, Dwight Gooden, but I will call him Doc till I'm done. Thank you so very much for your time, and thanks for helping out this organization today.
Yes, my pleasure. I can actually relate to this. I wasn't homeless, but growing up, with me and my dad, we shared the same winter coat. I mean, we sit in front of the stove for heat. We had the pots set up. We were leaking in the house. You know, rats running across you, so I can relate to that. And my dad always told me, what's the purpose of having a life? You can't have an impact on another's life, so I just try to continue that on.
Well, you've done that. Thanks again, Doc. Take care.